I've already given up my childhood. I don't want to give up my youth for something that makes me miserable. Curious about what would have been. And almost immediately, I felt a difference. I quit medicine 7 years ago, and a question that a lot of people ask is, do I regret quitting? The short answer is no, I do not regret quitting. I've had to ask myself this question so many times over the years because the amount of effort and energy and time that's required to even just get into medical school is insane. Honestly, sometimes I feel like I didn't really have a childhood because most of it was spent studying, working my butt off just to try and get the grades that I needed to get into medical school. For other uni degrees, people usually start thinking about them like a year or two before they apply. But for medicine, it's really different. You honestly start thinking about this stuff when you're like 14. Some people even start when they're like 12. That's how insane it is. Because you need to get such good grades throughout high school to get to the point where you're getting good grades at like GCSE and A level. And you also need to do lots of different experiences, and you need to do lots of things to try and make you stand out compared to other applicants. So you really do start off thinking about this stuff at a really young age. And it means that for me, at least, I just spent so much of that time studying. Getting into medical school was my number one priority. I knew that I wanted to be a doctor, but bro, I was 14. Like, how would I know that? How can you know at 14 years old what you want to do for the next 52 years of your life? Like, that's just mind boggling to me that people that young have to make a decision of whether or not they want to go into medicine. Obviously, you have years in between where you can decide. You can change your mind. For the majority of us, we are thinking about it early on though. So when people give you crap for wanting to change your career as a doctor or as a medical student, just think to yourself, like, who are you to say that a 14-year-old is able to make that judgment about what they want to do for the next 52 years of their life? With medicine, it's very much a conveyor belt of a career. You start and you basically know the entire trajectory of your career for the next 20, 30 years. Obviously, you can pick different specialities, but for the most part, you know what that's going to look like. So anyway, it took a lot of time and effort from my childhood to try and get into medical school. I worked my butt off in medical school. I managed to get through. I managed to graduate. But honestly, like, it didn't feel right. A lot of people were saying to me, oh, it's just medical school. Like, you're not going to enjoy it. Wait until you do foundation training. Wait until you actually start working as a doctor. And there may have been some credit to that. And I may have been like, okay, you know what? I will wait because I hated it in third year, but people told me to just wait until the next year. So I waited until the next year. And then they told me to wait until the next year. So I did. But when I start going to hospital every single day, surrounded by all of these doctors from junior level to senior level, and mate, everyone, like, okay, not everyone, but people were miserable. Of course, some of them loved what they were doing and some of them were passionate about it. But for the most part, a lot of people did not seem happy. And I just kind of felt like I don't want to be stuck in this thing where it's like, okay, just 2 more years, okay, just 3 more years, okay, this level has been hit, okay, the next level, okay, this milestone has been reached, okay, this next exam. It just felt like an endless stroll of like pain and unhappiness. I just really felt like I needed to try something else before I committed the rest of my life to medicine, because it felt like I would have to do that once I actually started. So anyway, I graduated and then I moved to Berlin and I started working with a health tech startup. And almost immediately, I felt a difference. Like, I could tell from the way I felt going to sleep the night before, having to go to work the next day. I would go to sleep and I would literally be like, dreading going into hospital so much when I was in medicine that there were times where I would genuinely wish that I would get injured on my way or like fall ill and become sick just so I wouldn't have to go in. I feel like that's quite a common experience for people who really hate their jobs. In contrast, I have never felt that way once starting my other roles, like my other positions. I remember just honestly being so excited to go to sleep so that I could wake up the next day and then go and work with my team and work on things that I really love doing. And it was that stark difference between what I felt in medicine versus what I felt in health tech or in other careers. I couldn't even compare the two because I just felt so majorly different. And I had never felt that in my life, where I felt so excited to go into work the next day that I was like itching to go to sleep. It sounds so lame, but until you have found that thing that you just love doing, it's really hard to understand. For me, work equated to pain. Like, all I knew was medicine was pain in one way or another. Obviously, there are amazing aspects of it, and obviously, some people don't feel that way. Some people love going into it. I'm just speaking from my own personal experience. Sometimes I do think to myself, I wonder, like, I try and envisage how I would have felt if I stayed in medicine. I don't know if I would say I miss it. I just feel like there are aspects of it that were really nice. I really enjoyed speaking to patients. I loved the idea of being able to help people, heal them from ailments and disease. I don't know why I said it like that. In any case, there were definitely things that I enjoyed about it, but to go as far as to say that I miss it would be maybe, yeah, no, miss it feels too strong. Regret feels way too strong because I do not regret it. I do wonder sometimes what my life would be like now. Maybe it would be easier. Maybe I wouldn't have hated it so much if I stuck out for another 15 years. But even then, I'm like, that whole 15 years is time that I could have used to do other things. I know people say to themselves, oh, yeah, just wait until you get to this level or this level. It calms down. It becomes so much easier. I want to live life in those 10, 15 years. Like, that's my youth. I've already given up my childhood. I don't want to give up my youth for something that makes me miserable. Versus the 7 years that I've had now doing all these amazing different roles, some of which have been really hard. It has been stressful. Don't get me wrong. I have like almost been burnt out, if not been burnt out in a couple of those roles. It hasn't been easy whatsoever, but it feels different. I feel fulfilled, excited, motivated, curious, happy, open to opportunities, all these things that I just never felt in medicine. It just felt like such a weight lifted off my shoulder when I decided to leave. And now I'm even like panicking because I feel like I'm so old, not that I'm so old, but I'm running out of time to try out all these different careers. You know what? I really want to try out software engineering. I really want to try out UX design. I really want to do product design. I really want to do content creation. I really want to do this. It's almost like the excitement that was muffled out and like, I don't know, strangled in medicine was unleashed when I tried something new and I started discovering other things that I really, really love. It hasn't been easy having to explain my situation to people. Obviously, people are judgmental. Obviously, they make unkind comments or hurtful comments. A lot of them make you feel like, oh, you weren't good enough to stick it out, you weren't resilient enough. In any case, this isn't to say that you should leave if you are watching this video. It's just to share that there are options for people, and I don't feel like it's the right thing to force yourself into a career that's making you miserable for the wrong reasons. If you're staying in it because you truly believe that in a couple of years things will get better for you, or that if you make some changes in your environment or whatever, then it will get better, then absolutely stay, because I don't want more doctors to leave the profession. We need more doctors. Please, let's all try and like make medicine better than it is currently. But for me, there was so much of it that I just disliked. And I, in the end, ended up feeling like I could do way better things for the world and for my community and for other people and my friends and my family if I'm not miserable all the time. Whatever reason you're choosing to stay, make sure it's the right one, because if you could be a happier, more effective person doing something else, maybe it's worth exploring that. Again, not saying quit and leave everything and then don't put any safety nets in place or don't assess your level of risk and just don't be crazy. Basically, you can check out other things to do in a sensible way. Like, I made sure that I could go back in if I wanted to. There have been other people I've known who, for example, left medicine. I have a friend who left completely for a year, realized she missed it, so she went back, but she went back part-time, and she built her business on the side and then did part-time work. I know a couple of people who've done that, who've left thinking that they hated it, tried something else, and then decided, oh, the solution is actually just to go part-time and do something else that I can be creative in, or that I can increase my income in, or whatever. So that's definitely something that I've seen happen quite a few times. But as for people who really didn't enjoy the profession and then decided to leave, did they regret? I personally haven't come across that. But again, I only know a handful of people who've done that, because obviously not many doctors leave the profession to begin with. I came back in to record quickly because I want to say, by the way, that all of this is based on privilege. The amount of privilege I have to be able to just quit and then go to Berlin and do something else is insane. So many people do not have that level of privilege. And I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that, and also to acknowledge that our generation does have the luxury to do these things. As in, my parents' generation didn't really have that luxury. Like, my parents, especially as immigrants, were focused on survival. They weren't focused on self-actualization and like picking the most fun, best career for themselves. This is all based off of privilege, and I 100% acknowledge that. I wouldn't have been able to try out a different path if it wasn't for my privilege, if it wasn't for people who were very ready to help me financially. Like, my partner and my family was super, super supportive. It would have been way harder to try something else had I not had that support from them. And also, had I not had the safety to do that. There are countries in which, again, this is not an option. Like, your only option is survival. And part of that is just sticking it out in the career that you think is going to be the best for you, or is going to provide you with the best opportunities in life, and your family with the best opportunities in life. So yeah, I needed to come back in and say that, because I was just sitting there thinking to myself, we should never not acknowledge the privilege that we have, especially for people who do things that are uncommon. It's not common to leave medicine, and part of that is because not everyone can. Like, it's not, once you have that career, if you have a family and that family relies on your income, it's not as easy as me leaving at 24 years old, however old I was after medical school, no dependents, no anything, and just going to Berlin was so much easier, and trying a new career route. One of the reasons why I don't regret it is because it didn't have such a huge financial or social impact on me. If I left when I was 50 years old and it meant that I had no income afterwards or whatever, and my husband left me or my wife left me, whatever, like, there are consequences attached, obviously, to making big decisions later on in life. Anyway, I felt it was important to say that. I've rambled on enough. I didn't have a script for this video. I just wanted to address it because I feel like a lot of people do ask that question, and a lot of people are curious. And even my sister, who was a nurse and she left nursing, she has asked me a few times, like, do you feel like you regret it? And I would never say that regret was an emotion that I felt in regards to the career. The most I felt is curious about what would have been. If you're in the position of like thinking about trying to do something else, or thinking that you want to leave, there are options for you out there. I literally created a whole platform, a free one, that you can join, and a community to get access to resources and to meet other people who are in the same position. I'll put a link to that below, but in any case, I just want you to know that you definitely have options. It may not even look like you quitting your job and never doing medicine again. It may look like going part-time. It may look like moving to Australia. It may look like taking just a year off. There are so many more routes available to you than I think you have been told there are, because it took me a long time to explore and understand these routes. If you want to hear more about my story, then watch this video next about how I left medicine and how I came to be in Berlin. Bye.